Object-oriented programming system or object-oriented programming in ABAP. What do you guys know about object-oriented?
There are classes, and
Yeah,
these
that's
classes
good.
are like
What is
blueprints. You
class?
can they're like blueprints for objects.
Blueprint
You
for
can
object. That's good. So OOPS stands for, also known as OOPS. OOPS stands for Object Oriented Programming System. Object Oriented Programming System. Okay. So OOPS or Object Oriented Programming is based on two things. Two things, classes and objects. First is class. Second one is your object. It is based on two things, classes and object. As told by Ellen, a class is a blueprint for creating objects. So suppose if I have to build a house, what I will do, I will go to the builder. That builder will simply show me some blueprints of the house, right? He is going to show me the structures of the house, and I will select one of them, and according to that the house will be built, right? Also, if I want some modification, I will suggest some modification will be done. So a class is a blueprint for creating objects. It defines the properties. It defines the properties, which is data and behavior. In a class, you are going to see two things, properties and behavior. Behavior means methods. You can call it a function also, but in SAP, they both are different things, function modules and methods that objects of the class will have. Okay. Also, a class consists of lots of things. A class consists of methods, attributes, events, interfaces, etc. It consists of lots of things. Methods, attributes, events, interfaces, etc. What is object? Object is nothing but it is an instance of class. An object is an instance of the class. It's an instance of the class. Okay. An object is an instance of the class. So how many classes are there in SAP? Types of classes?
public, private.
No. That is not a class.
Ah,
Types of classes. That is something else. We will see that. Okay.
mhm.
Types of classes. We have two types of class in SAP. First one is your global class. Global class, once defined, we can call it in any program or any function module also. And then we have local class, global class and local class. So what is a global class? A global class is a class that can be accessed from any ABAP program, that can be accessed from any ABAP program within the same system. In the same system, a global class is a class that can be accessed from any ABAP program within the same system. Then global classes are defined. Classes are defined in the global class pool that are available throughout the system. Okay. We can create global classes from SE24 transaction code. We can create them from SE24 transaction code. This thing we must remember, SE24 is the transaction code which is used for creating global class, Then we have local class. So in ABAP programming, a local class is a class that defines that is defined within the scope of another ABAP program or function module, which is defined within the scope of another ABAP program or function module. Unlike global classes, local classes cannot be accessed outside of the program. Cannot be accessed outside of the program. They cannot be accessed outside of the program. They are limited to a particular program part only. So what you are going to see, the syntax of a local class is going to be first class declaration part. So here we will define the declaration part of the class, and then we'll have another one which is implementation part. So class implementation. So here we will have the logic part of our class implementation. So declaration part will be there and logic part will be there. So two types of classes, global and local class. Then if you talk about the global class that given by SAP, it is also of four types. So types of global classes. First one is your usual ABAP class. Okay. So this is the mostly used global class. This is the mostly used global class. Normal class, whenever we create any global class, mostly we only go for this usual ABAP class. Then we have another one, exception class. An exception class is a type of class. An exception class is a special type of class which is used for defining custom exceptions. So this one is second variety. Then we have persistence class. So it refers to, or this class is mainly used um, to perform interaction with the persistent storage like database. So this class is mainly used to perform interaction with the persistent storage like database, mainly used for performing database operation. And at last we have unit test class. Okay, so it is used for testing purpose. If you want to perform some test functionality of individual unit of code, it is used for testing the functionality of individual units of code. Then we are going to use this unit test class. Four types of global classes: usual ABAP class, exception class, persistent class, and unit test class. Then we have the normal local classes which we can use locally. The scope of local classes are directly within the same program. They cannot be called outside of the program, right? So let's see the creation. I will go to my SAP system. I will log in. I will go to SE24, and here I will give a name. Let's say I'm giving the usual ABAP class. Okay, 01. First ABAP class. I'm going for it. Create button. Select class and go for OK. This pop-up screen is going to come, and you can see here 4 types of usual ABAP classes are there. You can select any one of them according to your choice. In the description, first I will give a short description. So usual ABAP class. Then you can see here its type, usual ABAP, exception, persistence, and test. I am going for usual ABAP class. Okay. Then here a final checkbox is here. Automatic final checkbox is here. So we will discuss it. For now, just click on save button. Assign the package and transport request. Okay. So this is the section of your object-oriented programming class. Here you will see the properties tab, interfaces, friends, attributes, methods, events, types, and aliases. All of them are the properties of a class. All of them are the properties of a class here. Now let's take a requirement. My requirement is, let's take a requirement so that we can easily understand it. Two requirement I am going to take. So requirement requirement 1 and then requirement 2. Take input in form of select option and return the employee data. Okay. Then in the requirement 1 I will select take input in form of parameter and return the employee data. Based on that, employee data. Pretty simple. Two things we are going to check. So I will simply go to my SAP system. I will go for methods. Here we declare our methods part. I will declare one method. So let's say I'm declaring a method employee details. A method I'm declaring employee details. Now we have level option. If you will click on this level, you will check that we have instance method and static method. So what is instance and static method? So levels of a method. First one is instance. Instance means it can be accessed only by objects. So we must create it. We must create the object, then and only then we can access it. Otherwise, we can go for static. So it can be accessed by class name as well as its objects. It can be accessed by class names as well as its objects also. So you can select any of the properties. For now, let's say I'm going for instance. Okay. Then we have visibility option. Now if you will click on visibility, you will see three things: public, protected, and private. So visibility of a method, visibility of a method. First one, public. If you are making a method public, it can be accessed within the class, within the child class. We will see the child class, what is and all these things within the child class, and outside the class also. Okay, then if you are making it private, this can be accessed only within the same class, within the same class. We cannot access it neither in the child class nor outside. Then the third one, protected. So some property can be protected. You only want to access by your child or by yourself, not others can, nobody else should access that. So that is why we have protected here. So can be accessed within the class, within the class, and within the subclass or child class, but not outside the class, but not outside the class. Okay, but not outside the class. So I will simply select it public for now, save it, and in the description I will give a short description to display the employee details. I'm simply passing a short description. Then we need to pass the parameters. Go for the parameter section, and here if you will check the type, you will have four options: importing, exporting, changing, and returning. Importing is for taking input from the user. Exporting is to give the output to the user. Changing can work both input and output, importing and exporting, that we have seen in case of function module also. And then we have the returning. We can have only one returning parameter for a function, for a method, at most one, or minimum zero, but at most one, because this is returning parameter. If you want to return something, so at last you can use it. So my requirement is I want to take input in form of parameter, and I want to take input in form of select option. We already know for select option we need a table type, right? We need a table type for with the component sign option low and high that we have created, if you remember it. And then for the parameter we can directly pass the data elements thing. Okay, so I am simply going to bring it. I will go to SE11 and I will bring the data element, data type, sorry, table name, my employee table, and I will copy its data element. Okay, for parameter, we need to pass it. So parameter p employee ID. In the type, I will make it importing. I will make it importing. And in the associated type, I am going to pass it. Then we have select option also. So SEMP ID. I will also make it importing. Importing. And for the associated type, I need a table type this time. We already know for select option, in case of function module, we have saw that we must create a select option. So if we want, we will go there and we will check the table type that we had created once. Let me check whether it is or not. No, it is not. Yeah, employee table. Let's try this one. Yes, this one. Perfect. Structure is there and then table type is there. Just copy it and paste it here. Okay, pretty simple. Then we need exporting parameter also, right? We need exporting parameter also. So we are simply going to pass the exporting parameter. I will pass here exporting parameter LT table. This will be my exporting parameter, and I am going to pass its type. So we need again a table type. Let's go and bring our table type. This is my employee table. It's not exist. This one. It contains four columns. We can use this. Let's copy it and let's use it. Okay, pretty simple. We can also pass the exceptions directly from here. Go for exceptions tab, and let's say I'm passing some exception, wrong input or wrong employee ID. and I will give a description. Employee ID do not exist. Do not exist. Okay. This is it. Now click on source code and you will go to logic section. This is inside the method you are going to write all your logic. And similar to function module, we are getting it. See here, parameter. This is importing, this will be exporting, and this is the exceptions tab which we can use here for writing the logic part. So I will simply write the logic. If my P employee ID is not empty, ID is not initial, then I will write logic for one thing. So select employee ID, employee name from my table name into table LT employee, into table LT table. This is my exporting parameter LT table, where employee ID is equal to P employee ID. Okay. Then if LT table, if LT table is not initial, is initial, we will raise the exception. We are going to raise the exception. So raise my exception name, which is wrong employee ID. So if user is sending some parameter, we will return this. Or if user is sending select option, we are going to return that also. Else if SEMP is not initial, we are going to return this for select option. So let's copy this and we will simply pass here, and this time we are going to change it in S employee ID. Okay, whether it is parameter or select option, both time my code is going to work. Let's pretty printer and activate it out. It has been activated. Any questions here?
No, no
No, no.
questions.
Okay, so this is the creation of method. Now if you check the parameters, this is importing. If you want, you can make it optional also. If you want, you can make it optional also. It's totally up to you. If you want, you can make it optional also, so it will not be mandatory. You can send any one of these values. I'm going to simply activate it and I'm going to check the output. So I will go for this execute button. Okay, and I'm going to pass some input. Let's say I'm passing 101 value and clicking on execute. See, it's returning me. Okay, it's not returning me department and manager. Why? Let me check the code, source code. Okay, I have not given the rest of the column names. So department manager, and here also department manager. Okay, let's activate that. We can simply check the value directly for the similar to our function module. We can directly execute our classes here and we can check the output. Go for it, pass the value. For I am going for uh, employee ID parameter. Yes, now it's returning me the correct result. If I will pass some wrong value, let's say I'm passing some wrong value here, 111, execute, it is raising the exception. Perfect. Then I will go for select option. I will go for select option and I will pass some value here, IBT 101 or up to 105, come back and execute it. Yes, it is returning me the results. So my class is working perfectly fine. My class is working perfectly fine. Activate it. This is the creation of program, sorry, creation of a usual ABAP class from SE24.